Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game SO. Today I'm going to have a fun and exciting episode for you guys this evening because everyone's been asking for a game room tour of my setup. While I don't have a traditional game room tour, if you guys are still interested, maybe I'll do a game setup tour because I have multiple spots in my house for different gaming styles. But in the meantime, people always love to ask me what the rarest items I have in my collection are, so I'm going to be showing you 5 games that I own or hardware that I would consider to be exceptionally rare. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And starting off, what's inside of this box right here, a lot of people ordered and very few people actually received. This is a copy of Paprium. I never expected to get it, but I came home around Christmas years ago, right around December 17th or 18th, and saw a box next to my mailbox. I opened it up and somehow there was a copy of Paprium inside. Not sure if I got a copy because I did have a YouTube channel and maybe they thought I would talk about it, but because it was Christmas I just threw it in the closet on a shelf and very quickly forgot about it. And honestly, I've never actually played the game to this day. I did open up the case just to take a look and show it to you guys on camera, but I had a really bad taste in my mouth knowing that I had a copy of something that a ton of people paid a lot of money for and never received. Leave me a comment down below and tell me if I'm just being stupid and I should open it up and review it and play it on the channel. But to this day, while I can get into the case and take a look at everything going on, the cartridge is still in the blister pack pill shape enclosure that it came in. But this is something that not many people actually received, and it does go for a metric crap ton of money, undeservedly so, on eBay. Hopefully one day someone involved in the project is able to just release a ROM that'll work on Mr. FPGA or other emulators so people can enjoy this, especially the ones that paid money for it. Let's take a look at what you actually got if you were one of the lucky few to receive your copy of Paprium. And again, technically not sealed anymore because I did break that blister shell. You get a really fun case, you get the cartridge, all sorts of additional artwork, and I really wanted to play and enjoy this game, but again, knowing people got taken for money and didn't receive the thing they paid for has really just caused me to leave this thing inside of its enclosure and never really be bothered by it, because if the game is amazing, I'd be even more upset. And the little metal heat shield inside's definitely loose, so we'll throw that off to the side. And yes, I throw things on the channel all the time, just kind of what I do. But you got a full color manual with it, you got a bunch of different paperwork, and you got it also this white sheet of paper that seems more like a manifesto from the lead developer Fonzie than anything else. Even inside of the box you can tell that this project was fraught with a lot of problems, and some of the people involved in it were absolutely probably shithouse rat crazy. If you don't know what that means, definitely look it up. But it's one of those things, not many people actually receive these, so I consider it to be one of the rare items in my collection. I'm showing you 5 today. I can do another video if you guys like it, so tell me down below if you enjoy this sort of stuff. But maybe one day I'll open Paprium, we'll see and find out if it's any good. If you want to see that, tell me as well. But moving on to the second game, under this box right here, it took me forever to find, so much so that it was about, give or take, 5 years of active searching to find a copy of this game. They did not make very many of them, and it was to complete a set. It is Marine Filth. This is part of the Nightmare collection. It was for PC 98 as well as FM Towns, and this is a point-and-click horror visual novel game. It goes along with Dead of the Brain and Dead of the Brain 2 to create the Nightmare collection, 3 games in the same sort of vibe, and compared to Dead of the Brain and Dead of the Brain 2, Marine Filth is impossible to purchase. I've seen exactly 1 copy sell in the last like 7 years since I picked this thing up, and that was the copy I purchased on Yahoo Auctions Japan. And the seller misspelled the title, so I only got it for like $80, which is definitely way under market value. But do remember, rarity does not always equate to value. Some of the rarest things I own really aren't worth that much on paper, but if you ever wanted to acquire one, you could hunt for years and still never see a single copy for sale. And I do love these Japanese horror visual novel games. They are a lot of fun to play, and at least for the original Dead of the Brain, there's not 1 but 2 translations out there that are definitely fun to enjoy. And honestly, I don't really pop this into a PC 98. I emulate it, but I do have all the original discs and everything that comes with it. But I just love collecting these big box Japanese PC games. They look great on a shelf, and I've always been intrigued by the overall horror aesthetic of the Nightmare collection. So 5 years of active hunting, and I was finally able to find a copy of Marine Filth to complete the collection on my shelf. So moving on to the third item in this list, and this is a prime example of when rarity does not equate to value. Sometimes some of the rarest stuff is some of the most valuable stuff, and sometimes it's just rare because they didn't make that many and not that many people care about them. It took me about 2 years of active hunting to get a copy of Operation Tiger on the Taito Power JC board. This is a light gun game, and if you know me and the channel, you know I absolutely love light gun titles. The rarer the better, and this is one that you could emulate in MAME, and I always wanted to find an original PCB for. It took me about 2 years. I actually found this in mainland China on AliExpress from a recycler and picked it up for about $200 shipped. Thankfully, it came in working. I was able to do some captures from original hardware and talk about all of the wiring job on the channel. But this is the stuff that I really absolutely love. Rare, janky 3D arcade boards. For the most part, they got recycled. They had a high failure rate, so actually finding copies of some games can be exceedingly hard. I haven't seen another copy go up for sale since I purchased this, and I'm always looking for backups of some of my favorite boards, and honestly, the amount of boards I know out in the wild for this are exactly 3. I've had some friends that live in Japan check some arcades that maybe were rumored to have this on the floor, and no one's been able to find one yet. So as far as I can tell, and I'm sure this number is just a presumption, there are 3 Operation Tiger boards out there that I know of. Even if we triple that, there might be under 10 boards still in existence, because this game was not a hit at arcades, even though I think it's a ton of fun, and a lot of times that's what equates to rarity, especially on the arcade hardware side. If a game wasn't successful, it got recycled, and that floor space on the arcade floors got a new game that was hopefully going to generate more quarters in revenue for the arcade operator. And while this did get a ROM upgrade, trying to keep a little bit more life into it as Operation Tiger's second mission, trying to find an actual arcade cabinet for this right now is like trying to find a unicorn playing poker with Bigfoot. It's just really not going to happen. But of course, every time I say that, someone leaves me a comment and tells me that they saw a cabinet last week for it, so if that is in fact the case, do let me know. But this is really where my collecting heart lies. Rare, weird 3D arcade boards, the type of stuff that you have to hunt years for, and they're not that expensive because I may be the only idiot out there actually doing it. Now the fourth item I spoiled in the thumbnail, but obviously it's my 3DO M2 collection, and the prize of that's going to be the Panasonic FC21S1TK. This is what would have shipped if it actually released as a console, but it came out as an interactive multimedia appliance that had different experiences on it, like driver's training software as well as elder memory care games. And it's not just the FC21, I also have in this case one of the prototype controllers from a development kit. And of course you've seen the videos, if you haven't I'll link them down below, but I own a metric crap ton of 3DO M2 hardware. It has been something I've been collecting over 15 years, and it is something that I try to display on the channel, get captures of as much as I can, so it is preserved for posterity, because honestly at my current count there seems to be maybe 15 FC21s out there in the wild that we know about. I mean, maybe there's a warehouse somewhere with 1,000 of these new old stock in box, we just don't know, but obviously they are exceedingly rare, and the development controllers are definitely not any less rare. Although this one is number 517, so that means they made at least 516 more of these things. No one really knows how many development kits went out for the 3DO M2 back in the day. I can definitely tell you that a decent handful did, but once Matsushita and Panasonic, one and the same company, purchased this from the 3DO company, it basically died a very quick death after that, and there was no developer support whatsoever. But I absolutely love the 3DO M2 hardware, whether it's the arcade side of things or the home console interactive multimedia appliance side of things. There's a lot of fun to be had here. Now this thing actually came out in 1996. I think it would have done a really good job on the market. It would have definitely beaten everything else out there, because this is going to be more powerful than something like Nintendo 64, and imagine having something like that on the store shelves alongside PlayStation 1 and Sega Saturn. I'm not saying that the M2 would have been a success. It's very likely it would have failed just because it didn't have those big 3 companies backing it. But I would have loved to have seen that, and that's why I've spent so much time and energy collecting all of this hardware, doing all of these 4K captures for YouTube, and purchasing different variant arcade discs and dumping them for free to Internet Archive. That way they are preserved, and anyone who may need one has one in the future. And of course, again, if you ever find one and it's not working, just contact me. I can pretty much repair almost all of this stuff at this point in time. Really, I just want to make sure there's as many 3DO M2s in the wild as possible, so this hardware lives on and people can continue to have fun with it. Whether it's the home console side of things here like IMSA Racing, or whether it's the arcade side of things, because I was so excited for this hardware to come out back in the day, being a 3DO owner and fan, and I definitely wanted D2 on the 3DO M2, which we never got. Or something like Total Vice here. This is just one of my favorite arcade light gun games of all time. It is basically in the Lethal Enforcers universe, except without the title. It is just one of those classic 90s light gun games, and if you know anything about me in the channel, that is my favorite genre of all time. So my 3DO M2 collection and my FC21 are definitely very high up on the rarity scale. Something like Total Vice, you can probably maybe find a PCB once a year for, and they sell for like $400 to $500. Other things like Toby Polystars you may only see every couple of years, and that's going to be around the $1,500 mark right now. Although weirdly, 2 FC21s have been listed for sale in the last year. One person was looking for $35,000, the other one's looking for $15,000. I know what the high water mark on sales for these units are because I completed it to a collector in the Middle East. It's basically just around $10,000. So I don't know if those are ever going to sell. Maybe you'll pick one up, who knows, but it definitely is not something that is cheap. And I will tell you right now, my unit cost a fraction of what people are asking for today, and it's never going to go up for sale unless I have an emergency, because I will say, while I value my entire game collection, if anything was ever to happen to my wife or my family and money needed to be made quickly, this would all be sold in a heartbeat. It's a fun thing, but it really isn't my only goal in life. Now moving on to the definite rarest item I have in my collection. This is the beta development version of Samurai Shodown 64 on the Hyper Neo Geo 64. This was found in a field on a pallet under a tarp under a tree in California, and different websites including Wired and Eurogamer wrote about the find on this one. And before you ask, yes, I am still working on dumping this thing. It is giving me ever-loving hell because I need to be exceedingly careful with it. Inside of this are a ton of different riser boards with different game ROMs on them, and they're all custom parts. They look like RAM sticks, but they are not. I've been trying to find the female mating connector for a very long time just so I can try to wire up to it, because each of these sticks has 8 ROM chips, and I'm dealing with about 96 total ROM chips on the board, and each one of those needs to be perfectly dumped. So I have been tracing this out in my spare time, trying to get a pinout, and now I need to build some sort of harness system so I can actually dump these chips one by one, and hope to hell they are not protected. This is just a massive board. It is one of a kind in the world. Another one has never shown up before, and it definitely is something that I will get preserved. It is preserved in video format, but this is definitely something I will share with everyone as soon as I figure out how to do it. And trust me, a lot of people have offered to help, and every single one of them so far has asked to keep the board for that trouble. It is just not something I am willing to do. And as far as the value on this thing is concerned, it's impossible to put a number to because it really is the only one of its kind. Now, I have received offers from people in the Middle East. That's a very hot collecting area for Neo Geo stuff, and they're the type of numbers where you could buy a brand new car off a lot in cash. But honestly, the reality is it just isn't something I'm going to sell. It's going to live in my collection, and hopefully next year I can go up to the Classic Midwest Gaming Expo and actually let you guys play it. I was supposed to go up this year, but unfortunately I was offered a gig at the last minute, and it was a long gig for a decent amount of money, and I definitely had to accept it, so I couldn't make it. But this is the type of thing, I will get it dumped, I will tour it around, I'll try to let everyone play it, because every single one of these games or pieces of hardware was designed to be interacted with and played with. So the more people I can give a chance to play something like this, I absolutely will, but it's definitely the rarest item in my collection. But that's part 1 of 5 of my rarest items. If you want to see a part 2, leave a comment down below and tell me, are you more interested in the rare hardware? Are you more interested in the rare software? I try to mix it up here, 2 pieces of software, 3 pieces of hardware, to give you guys a better look at what I actually collect. And trust me, there's a lot more in the closets behind me. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and if you like this, definitely tell me. I'm more than willing to make a part 2. But short of that, we're done, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.